have really smart
Yeah,
people that they employ
exactly.
specifically to do exactly that. So,
Exactly.
how is it BlackRock and Sequoia and Tiger and these other
Temasek Holding.
the like really really top tier investors with due diligence teams,
Yes.
how did they get fooled? That is a great question that a journalist should. That would be a brilliant article to write. How these top firms got fooled by Sam. That would be a fantastic article, but that requires actual journalism, which I'm not sure they're up to these days.
But Temasek, that there is already you know, tons of articles that Temasek said they did a due diligence for more than 8 months, and still they invested. So maybe just like Shara said, they didn't have this.
Well, here's the thing. I think part of the thing is they did, from a due diligence perspective, it wouldn't appear that anything was awry. What went awry was something that the due diligence is just it's an exchange, it works, money comes in, money goes out, yes, yes, yes. What they didn't account for was that he was literally stealing money out of the cash drawer every night and moving it over to a different, you know, sister
Left pocket to right pocket.
company.
Yeah,
Right.
didn't notice the Alameda's problem and directly linked to the FTX thing.
Yeah, so it's like I did due diligence on your donut shop, everything seems normal. I didn't notice that you were taking money out of the drawer and taking it over to your, shoe store, for example. So it was. I don't know that you can do that from a technical basis. The due diligence could have checked out to be okay. It was an
No,
ethical.
not really if you do it properly, in my opinion. If you check that you have self-sovereign control of the keys to the funds, and that you can prove to yourself you're sure nobody else has a copy of those private keys, then you've answered the question. But we're so far away from that. The whole crypto thing somehow jumped up. You know how we had the gold standard and then we came off it. The crypto market seemed to just not even ever go on it. It's just like stuff proof of reserve stuff actually hold. It's just like leverage it out from the word go. So it's taken the worst of the current monetary system in a way, uh, and taken it to the extreme, whilst the whole basis of the origin of it was the opposite of that. So I just
Yeah,
think
but
they absolutely have not done their due diligence properly. Yeah, none of this is in the remotest bit surprising when you look at it through a simple lens and ask yourself how you can prove that you have the funds. But they're not doing that. They're not looking at it properly. So, oh well, shame on them.
yeah, but Ben, you said they did get a lot of those private keys, but the keys are the garbage coins. The coins link, you know, vented themselves.
Yeah, but there's a difference in getting private keys and being absolutely sure you're the only person in the world who has them for a start. And the moment you start trying to leverage coins, you can't be the only person who has them. It has to be at least two parties because nobody can give you in return on something they have no hold over. And as soon as two parties have got keys, then N parties can have keys. So the funds can be basically in multiple places at one time, which defeats the entire point in the first place. Try doing
Oh,
that with gold.
I see that everyone has a flag on their profile now. Is it because of the World Cup?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, I'm going to put Japan flag now because Singapore is not in the World Cup, of course. But samurai blue all the way. Yeah.
And sure, you posted a photo. Is that how like disguise their alcohol?
No. You mean okay? Let's ask Tyler. Tyler, what did you drink in Qatar?
No comment.
Okay, yeah, better not. Okay, yeah.
Starbucks. I
Nah,
drink a
one
lot
of
of
my
Starbucks.
friends shared it, so I just posted. That's all.
Yes, it's 11 to 10. Okay. Are we ready for some non-tech news?
Let's do it.
Sure. Okay. So there actually is very little non-tech news other than this thing called the World Cup, and honestly, that's about and a big earthquake in Indonesia with 56 fatalities. That's about it. So there was one. I think there was an important non-tech news article that I shared in our kind of semi-official back channel, which is the following here. Where did it go? Give me 2 seconds to find it. There it is. Xi Jinping is in Bangkok at the moment, as are many world leaders, and for what's called APEC, APEC, and the headline that I will pin to the top of the room speaks for itself. I couldn't have said it better. Let me just pin it so you can read it with your own beautiful eyes. It says, China's Xi takes APEC by storm after stealing the show with hardline comments. And let me read you a little bit of this. It says, China's president is taking APEC by storm after making hardline comments. His recent statements have set off tidal waves as worldwide leaders became sidelined in the chaos, blah, blah, blah. According to the Thai Inquirer, Xi called on the APEC region, that's Southeast Asia basically, to focus on economic development first and save the power struggle between nations as an afterthought, meaning the power struggle between China and the US for the New World Order. She's telling them, don't worry about that. Don't even bother your beautiful head about that. You just focus on growth, 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 and who's going to help you grow. And you don't need to worry about what mommy and daddy are arguing about. You just focus on your grades, Junior. And here's the quote. The Asia Pacific is no one's backyard, meaning it's not China's or America's. That's what he's implying when he says no one's. And should not become an arena for bigger power contests. No attempt to wage a Cold War will ever be allowed by the people or by our times. So he's more will be revealed in the next quote here. Here we go. Currently, the Asia Pacific enjoys overall stability. Cooperation in our region has been steadily advanced, and peace, development, and win-win cooperation remain the underlying trend in this region. He then laid a heavy hand towards what he calls a Cold War mentality, unilateralism, hegemonism, and instability, saying such acts are hampering economic ties. Yes, we are trying to cut the economic ties of Thailand and China, exactly. And he's, like we've done with Russia, for example, with many countries, we've severed the economic ties. And we're going to sever the economic ties of many, many countries with China. And that's precisely what he's now trying to prevent. Xi says that such a mentality distorts international norms, impedes development cooperation, and ignites conflicts in the region. Then he blames such issues as burgeoning the region's peace and development. So he says, if we go down this path that the U.S. wants to go down of cutting economic ties, it will impede development cooperation. Yep, exactly. And it will ignite conflicts in the region. Okay, well, that's you threatening that you're going to start launching missiles because you're upset that the economic ties are getting cut. And Xi's statements were outlined in a 6-page document in which he promoted the Chinese way of modernization over the current Western route. He called out the U.S. influence that is currently seen in the region and proposed a counter-alternative that would help create conditions for ensuring economic development and durable peace and stability in the Asia-Pacific. So his point is, if you join our side, there will be peace. And if you don't, if you sever ties with us economically, there won't be peace. Essentially,
Does
just to
does
summarize.
that involve the 9-dash line at all? Is
I
he paying
imagine,
attention?
I imagine it. I imagine it does. I imagine if you just let us have the South China Sea, there will be peace. Oh, and by the way, all your oceans belong to us, and there'll be peace. There'll be plenty peacefulness for everybody as long as you just keep buying our stuff, and don't cut the economic lines that America wants you to cut. Because what's fundamental here, the fundamental point to absorb is China is a bigger trading partner with most countries in Asia and Africa and pretty much everywhere compared to the U.S. Because the U.S. is not as dependent on trade as China is. China is a bigger trading partner with pretty much everybody. And China wants to keep that, what do we call it, globalization free, trade going everywhere all the time. They're not only do they want to keep it, they're dependent on it. Keep that in mind. They're critically dependent on it, and the U.S. knows this. And that's why when the U.S. says, you know what, hey friend, hey everybody, you know what, that China dude's kind of a dick. Let's stop trading with him. That dick, that's Xi. Xi's the asshole. He's in this scenario. That is what really worries him. Is that people will stop trading with him. And that's what he's telling this audience in Southeast Asia, that I know your military backer, the US, and this is the point I want everyone to absorb fundamentally. China is a bigger economic trading partner with Southeast Asia and many countries. The US is a bigger, how do we say, defense partner. And China knows that, and the US knows that. And the question is, which one do you cozy up to? Your defense partner or your economic partner or trading partner? And that's why Xi's saying, stick with your trading partner. Everything will be cool. And there won't be any conflicts. And if you take the U.S. route, there's going to be conflicts. It's going to get messy. You could get hurt. You could get poked in the eye. Somebody might fall down, twist an ankle. All bets are off. So that's why people are, people familiar with this story are indeed talking about. That was some rather strong comments that he was making at this event today.
I want to add to that if that's okay. It's been a fun week for Xi. The video of him, if you haven't seen it, or talking to Trudeau is quite amusing. He gets noticeably agitated for Xi. Trudeau just basically confronts him, and sort of as the video goes on, the very sort of usually stoic Xi is well, not waving his arms around, but he's certainly sort of being exuberant with his arm movements, shall we say, and he gets noticeably annoyed by the persistency of Trudeau, and then sort of wanders off, looking rather annoyed. So I recommend that video if you want a minute's amusement. But yeah, I think it's what you're pointing out, Tyler, is just the growing desire for China to be that security partner. We saw them sign this defense pact with the Solomon Islands in May, I think, which is obviously quite a notable shift in China's approach to sort of, it's not just economics now. China wants to be more of a comprehensive partner, but I do think it's also revealing that they're having to sort of acknowledge that they can't just sort of they're trying to. I think this is President Xi's best approach at appeasement, if anything, because he's aware that there are several countries that are pretty pissed off with China, and that if he wants to remain, the regional hegemon and counterbalance against the US, you're going to have to play nice, even if it's a bit of a backhanded compliment with your partners. So yeah, I think this is quite interesting to see, and even though what the countries are all trading with China still, this decoupling is really beginning to pinch. And I think we're going to see a notable shift in rhetoric over the winter and maybe the summer, as also what happens in Ukraine changes, as well as Iran, these two main countries being important for China in economic senses as well. But appreciate that headline. It's quite interesting.
Okay. So now we go into the tech news. As soon as I find the air horn, there it is. Here we go. Happy November 21st. The top story today is from Bloomberg that crypto prices sink with Bitcoin dropping 4%. That's not that big of a drop. Bitcoin's gone up and down significantly more than that. It's not really headline newsworthy in my book, but anyway. But it's the point that there's continued fallout after the FTX implosion. And so, yeah, Bitcoin's down to 16, and Ether, the whole space is still dragging as there's now more doubt. This is actual doubt, unlike the FUD that the crypto bros are fond of talking about, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is legitimate FUD. No one's sowing the FUD. The dude running the exchange stuck his dick in the mashed potatoes, and now no one wants to eat it. FUD. This is legit fear, uncertainty, and doubt for a very good reason. Not the phony type that everyone would like you to would like you to think is going around. This is legit FUD happening
That is
in
a
real time.
beautiful visual metaphor, Tyler. Thank you for that one.
Yeah. So just skip the mashed potatoes and you'll be fine. So the second story is DCG's Grayscale refuses to share proof of reserves. That's not good. Everyone should be showing proof of reserves right about now. If they're not, you might want to get your money out of there. You might want to put down those mashed potatoes. Claiming security concerns as Grayscale Bitcoin Trust reaches new lows and DCG's Genesis halts withdrawals because there will be a run on the bank. Here we go. Here comes another one. More FUD going on. And it ain't really FUD when they're not letting you withdraw your money. You have plenty of reason to have FUD when the exchange doesn't let you remove your money. That's not FUD. That's common sense. And the Walt Disney Company's board announces Bob Chapek will step down as CEO and be replaced by Bob Iger for 2 years, effective immediately. Stock jumps up 8% as a result. Donald Trump says he sees, quote, a lot of problems at Twitter, doesn't see any reason to return, and plans to stick with Truth Social. Donald Trump said he sees a lot of problems. There you go. That's all you need to know. And although Elon Musk did one of the funnier tweets I've seen in a while on this topic, which you can see on his Twitter account, it might be worth seeing if you haven't seen it. It's quite funny.
What
It's
is
a
the
meme.
minimum age for Twitter user, Tyler? Do you know?
I don't know. I imagine 13. They have to follow that 13-year
Yeah, a little
social
bit
media.
obscene.
Yeah, so it's a little bit. Not really. It's a cartoon.
13.
Which,
13.
if it wasn't obfuscated, then it would be. But it's there's no actual genitals being shown anyway. So in a tweet reply, so now people are asking, what now that you're allowing? Well, Trump's account is back. You can now find it. You can click on it and see his tweets. That they were all preserved, interestingly. And now people are asking, what about Alex Jones? But that's
Hell no.
an even more extreme version of far rightness, I guess. And even Elon said no, absolutely not. And even Alex Jones responded to Elon saying no, saying, you know what, I don't blame you. I didn't necessarily think you're going to allow me. I'm quite extreme, and he's got to, I have to say, I never would imagine I would credit Alex Jones with anything, but he actually sounds very sober when he explains why he doesn't think Elon's going to allow him on, and he doesn't really blame him, and here's why. And I hope he makes Twitter a better place and more free for more people. And maybe someday he'll get around to adding me, but I don't expect him to at this point, and neither should you. And anyway, a very sober, self-aware response that he gave. I think people were expecting him to be upset with Elon. He's not at all upset with Elon for not allowing him back on.
Well, that's pretty hilarious, given that he got sued for something like $1 billion and he called himself retarded. So I think it's on character, and at least from that perspective, I respect that Alex Jones kind of understands the level of toxicity that his kind of media brings. Although I think the lawsuit was a little bit ridiculous. I don't even think we're allowing a lawsuit against the Saudis for Khashoggi. So I'm not sure to what extent that's actually going to address the issue. Legislating that kind of behavior is a little tough, so see what happens.
Hey, Eric, I guess you didn't hear that was forgiven, the whole thing against Khashoggi.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So, Tyler, did you see the one tweet or the two tweets that Elon put out? Because I thought they were hilarious. The two temptation tweets to the point
Yeah,
where
I
Trump
thought they were hilarious as well. Yeah,
reposted them.
the CBS one and the Trump one.
Yep.
Yeah, they're both.
I mean, he's got 87 million followers right now.
I mean, that's partly what makes them so funny, is that it's coming from somebody of his stature.
But
anyway,
the reality of it is, if he stays in the echo chamber of truth, he's going to go nowhere.
Let's make bets on when he's going to actually come back to Twitter. We could probably make that
Oh,
interesting.
that's such a good point. Yeah, and I think Trump can't resist himself, which is why the image that Elon tweeted is so it's so perfect. It's my kind of humor, and you can tell I can't stop laughing just thinking about it. Anyway, okay, moving right along. Twitter's automated copyright strike system appears to be broken as users upload full movies. Some accounts with viral tweets were later suspended. Okay, next up, Elon's changes at Twitter threatened to set up a showdown with Apple and Google over in-app purchases for subscriptions and content moderation issues. Elon's plans to turn Twitter into a more of a subscription service threatens to set up a. Okay, I see where they're going. This is a good point. It's actually a good point. Is it puts Elon on a path to be where our friend Daniel Ek is with Spotify, where Daniel's constantly raising the flag that Apple's taking as being unfair, taking a whole bunch of money that they shouldn't be taking as much as they do, and because subscription services of all kind make similar points. And now that Twitter's shifting from an ad-based model, which Apple doesn't take a cut of the ad revenue, to a subscription model, which they do want to take a cut of, 30% of, it does put Elon more into the camp of the very large subscription platforms who regularly express their discontent with Apple and their take. So fair point. So next is from Wall Street Journal. Elon Musk's Twitter starts the FIFA World Cup, traditionally one of the platform's busiest periods, with a depleted staff, potentially leading to serious issues. Okay, now journalists have been writing a variation of that headline for many days now, long over a week. They're even saying, I hear rumors from ex Twitter team members that it's likely to collapse. And I've seen multiple journalists all saying they're downloading their tweet history for fear that the whole thing will collapse into a black hole, never to be seen from again. This is complete idiocracy at its best. These are people who know, not only, they don't even know how startup businesses work, let alone the tech stack underneath these tech businesses. They really know less than nothing about the tech stack at these tech companies and how it operates, and yet are projecting, wishing out of some weird fever dream that they're in, that Twitter's now going to fail because so many people are being laid off, that it can't possibly maintain the servers. Well, guess what? These servers more or less run by themselves on a percentage basis. To give you an idea, as I'll use Chamath's example that he just gave in the last All In podcast, which was quite good, definitely worth a listen. And he made the point that when Twitter had 250 million active users, monthly active users, they had 1,000 team members. They went from 250 million to 350 million, which is, you could call that a 50% increase generously, and have grown the company 10x in size, in terms of headcount. So you grow up 10x to grow 50% more users. No, you don't need to do that at all. Matter of fact, you didn't need to grow the team at all to handle that extra 50% of load. They could have kept it at 1,000. They went up to 10,000, 12,000.
WhatsApp
So
had 55 people.
Instagram had 13 people. Pirate Bay has fucking 0 people, and they still do respectable traffic. Fucking 0, not 1. The founders were all in fucking prison, and it's still operating. It's so fucking ridiculous that these journalists are ranting that Twitter's going to collapse into a black hole. It's the most ludicrous thing from a tech perspective. These people have no fucking clue what they're talking about. Absolutely
Tyler,
not.
speaking of that, did you see what happened with CBS News?
Oh my
They
God. We were just talking about that, about the, yes. So
they quit
CBS, for
on
those,
Friday and they're meeting again
yeah,
Sunday.
yes. And I love the whole exchange. So CBS says we're stopping Twitter because of uncertainty with regard to Elon being back at Twitter. And Elon responds, who made this decision? And then responds to himself saying, who gives a shit? Who cares? Like, I don't even care for you to even answer who made the decision. It doesn't matter. Like, who cares? Who cares if CBS is on Twitter? And then 48 hours later, CBS returns to Twitter. And Elon made again another hilarious meme tweet about that.
You know what they probably realized? How much of their viewership actually comes from Twitter. Like
Exactly right.
good article and
Precisely right. Precisely right.
yeah.
Precisely right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's free money to them. It's free fucking money. Like substantial money that they're getting from Twitter views of their content, from tweeting and retweeting and all of that shebang. And why cut that off? Well, you wouldn't. It costs you X amount of dollars to hire X amount of monkeys to do your tweets. And do you have a good ROI on that? And the answer is almost in every case, yes. That's why everybody's on Twitter. So, yeah, why would you cut that off? And by the way, somebody probably just told them precisely what I just told you, which is you sound fucking ridiculously uninformed and uneducated on this issue when you start talking like that. That you're this uncertainty of Twitter being around, and that's pure fantasy poppycock. You sound stupid. You sound really delusional.
I want to play a clip of like Brondo electrolytes.
From the idiocracy. Yeah. Okay. So the next topic is
Meanwhile, by the way, Tesla is on its second recall in 2 weeks, right?
yes. So Elon, yeah. Well, it turns out the self-driving of vehicles is substantially harder than running a stream of 144 characters. So, yeah, these self-landing rockets and self-driving cars, from an engineering standpoint, what's the metaphor? Let's call that Mount Everest. It's dangerous. You can die. People die. People die with the self-driving cars and the rockets. And Twitter, that would kind of be like the sandcastle in your backyard that your 8-year-old made in relative difficulty.
I think the Staten Island dump is a better scenario.
You could use that. You could use your local golf course, like hole number 9 at your local golf course, like that hump that goes between, when you have to hit over when you go miniature golfing, and there's the one with the dragon where you have to get the ball in the mouth. It's kind of similar to that. It's kind of like hitting holes in ones on like a par 5 400-yard course versus a little hitting the ball in the putt course. These are wildly different levels of difficulty between Tesla and SpaceX and Starlink and docking with the International Space Station, what have you, and running a bunch of tweets. These are so Twitter will be fine. Twitter's going to be doing just fine. No need to panic and download your tweet history. By the way, even if Twitter went down, the tweets aren't going to self-implode. That's not how technology works. Your tweets are saved on servers somewhere. You don't need to download them for fear that your tweets will somehow magically disappear. No one's going around with a huge magnet in the server room erasing the servers.
So, Ty,
So yes.
who do you think would make a good replacement? He suggested he was going to step back and focus on, well, as you said, a company that requires a little bit more than just 140 characters. Who could you see as a good CEO?
Funny you should ask. So, we'll wait and see on that one. I tend to make a lot of predictions here. I'm going to recuse myself from that
Oh,
conversation.
okay. I caught you out on
Yeah,
one.
Did you see when John Legere from Clubhouse actually
yes, I did.
suggested he be the
Yeah,
CEO?
well, I would say John from T-Mobile, but sure, he spent a good amount of time in Clubhouse.
Elon told him
Uh,
no.
yes, Elon said no, and Elon gave him a very good reason why, actually. And Elon was correct in his reasoning, which is Twitter is transitioning from a media-ish company to a technology company. And in Elon's mind, Twitter needs to be a technology company and do technical innovations and become a payment system fundamentally with identities, and all of the problems that Twitter needs to address and work on and make progress towards are technological in nature and require a technologist to run the company. And John, who I love, John, when he ran T-Mobile, I was a ecstatic shareholder of T-Mobile from the moment I heard of John. I was a T-Mobile user. I became a T-Mobile user because of John, and I liked John so much that I became a shareholder of John, and I couldn't be more thankful and appreciative and grateful to John's leadership at T-Mobile, which I think was fantastic. Having said that, he's his skills are not in the technological realm. There are, I think, brilliant marketing, branding, positioning. He has incredible, admirable skills that aren't precisely the skills that Twitter needs at this moment. They might be later, could be later that Twitter gets to that stage where that's what would be the best person to have at the helm. But for the time being, they need, as Delon, I think, correctly states as a technologist, they need to go through and start kind of over at the kind of the startup stage mentality and really build a robust technological team who can innovate quickly, because that tends to have significant impact on which of these social media platforms is winning. And that's in large part why I think TikTok is winning, because from a technological standpoint, TikTok is the most impressive technologically. They have by far the best algorithm, and that's in large part why they're winning. So that's he
So
gave it
Tyler,
that.
what do you
Yes, yeah,
what do you think? What use case or use cases do you think Twitter's going to launch, let's say in 3 years, that the other platforms don't have, aside from
great
e-commerce
question.
or social
Right,
commerce?
check this out. So again, keep in mind Elon's history is that of a PayPal, and even prior to PayPal. And payments is when you've done a payments company that is still around and still viable. And I'll be honest with you, I use PayPal nearly every day in the work that I do. I understand not everybody does, but PayPal is very much still around in a very big way. That's rather impressive for the companies who came from the Web 1.0 era, which, keep in mind, doing PayPal back in Web 1.0 itself was quite a feat. It became sort of the default way to pay for things initially on the internet. Before credit cards were possible on the internet, there was eBay, but we needed a way to pay for stuff for eBay to even work. And that's where PayPal came in and solved that problem. And you got to say, looking back over the history of PayPal, not a lot of big scandals of it's done very admirably and continues to do so. And so my point is that Elon's head and PayPal, you need to keep those two things very close together. And when you think about the future of Twitter, and if you were PayPal, if you own PayPal today, you might consider acquiring Twitter and adding identities, and then everybody has an account of saving money in every currency, including cryptos, which, by the way, PayPal now does. But imagine every Twitter account has a financial account, like a bank account, that earns interest, that you can trade with everybody in Twitter instantly. You can tip them. Instead of giving them a like, you can give them a penny. You can buy things from them. So now you have the beginnings of real personal e-commerce in the West. Let me explain. This is a huge concept.
Tyler, he's already said that. He's already said that that's where he wants to go, is the micropayments.
Yeah, well, I said he
Yeah.
was going to say it before he said it. So let me do it one more time. So Twitter has the potential currently in the West, we have e-commerce. And generally, e-commerce is not people to people, it's business to person, right? You have to make a web shop. It's not usually a singular individual selling the stuff. It's usually a small company of some kind who's doing e-commerce and selling to consumers. Or it's a huge company like Amazon in the biggest example, or Walmart or whatever. And then you have, in Asia, people-to-people money transactions happening. And that's happening in where we are, Cheryl and I and BB and others in the East, we know very well that we're doing people-to-people digital transactions all the time. And in fact, Thailand and Vietnam today just agreed that we're going to allow each other to send each other payments digitally, frictionlessly, instantly. We already have Thailand and Singapore. We're now adding Thailand and Vietnam. It'll be interesting to see if Vietnam and Singapore are also going to be part of that. And we're building this digital person-to-person network that we just expect to have in the East. By the way, the Nordics has it too with their own system. But the huge opportunity is not only person-to-person payments system, digital, which is surprisingly still, there isn't a default ubiquitous frictionless use case for that. There should be, and PayPal should be doing it. But the problem is they don't have the user framework that Twitter has, for example, where everybody's visible and here's my account and it's real easy and just send me some money. And Facebook tried to build this and Facebook fumbled because of the trust issues, and people don't want to put their bank accounts with Facebook, or they fundamentally don't trust it. And so that leaves a gaping hole of opportunity. Google's just managed to fumble it repeatedly. To some extent, Apple really hasn't captured in the way that it should. And that it leaves Elon a foot in the door to bust that door open, do person-to-person, fluid, real-time transactions, person-to-person, and selling shit from your Twitter account, much like Facebook has done with some degree of success with Facebook Marketplace, but arguably Twitter architecturally could do it even easier and better with your bank account tied to it, which makes it really nice. And that in itself is a huge opportunity, but there's more, because Twitter is about content. And Twitter, Elon has revealed in recent days, hours even, that he intends to bring that video is going to become a real focus for Twitter. And let me explain what he's envisioning there. That YouTube today has video content. That's an understatement. And those content creators are making money. They're monetizing their video content, as they should. It's fantastic. However, they don't have their the creators don't have YouTube bank accounts. And it's somewhat limited to video only. Twitter is multimedia. It's text. They're adding long form text. Elon also revealed that somewhat in a not big way yet, but he will. They're adding long form text as we speak. Actually, our friend Jane from Hong Kong even found it. So watch for that announcement soon. They're also adding end-to-end encryption as we speak. So watch for that announcement soon. They'll also be adding long form video like YouTube, which is great. They also have photos on Twitter. You may have seen some yourself. That's something YouTube doesn't do. They also have, Twitter's kind of unique in that it, unlike YouTube, which is synonymous with landscape viewing, and TikTok, which is synonymous with vertical portrait viewing, Twitter's kind of equally opportunistic to both formats, which is kind of nice. So you've got both forms of video, short form and long form, TikTok and YouTube, and photos and short text and long text, all of which can be monetizable. Meaning, yes, even your tweets, your text tweet that goes viral, potentially you could get a piece of the ad revenue that's shown as a result of your tweet going a bit viral. So you could eventually make money from just your text tweets and your images and your videos and your audio. It can handle all of that. And your products and services. All of it. The whole shebang. The whole kit and caboodle. No other platform does all those things. YouTube does video great. TikTok does portrait video very well. Some places do Substack does long form text very well. So Instagram does images very well. Twitter's going to do all that and give you a piece of the revenue of all that in your own bank account on the app that you can then trade with everyone. And why is that so interesting? Well, Facebook knew how interesting it was. They're trying to get you to leave tips for each other in a monetizable way. This has been a dream of the internet ever since the beginnings of PayPal, this microtransactions of tipping people with small amounts of micro cash for liking things or whatever. And there's arguments to be made that even requiring that, like a penny per like, would have interesting effects of things. There's crazy opportunities that unlock as a result of doing this. And there's a way, by the way, it gets even crazier. Are you ready for this? Everything I just said is a prelude to the real holy shit. You ready? Here it is. If Twitter is an actual bank with actual bank accounts that allow you to do transactions with everyone else on Twitter to buy their products and services and content and whatever. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because they also have something even more valuable, which is the data around all of these transactions, which is unbelievable. They now know what everyone's buying all the time, which Amazon has, and the content they're consuming, like YouTube and Netflix has, and all this data is wildly powerful, especially if you're really interested in AIs. And I believe this Elon Musk guy, from what I hear, he's actually he's kind of interested in this AI stuff. Actually, I'm hearing it's got just rumors I'm hearing, but anyways, so this data can be used in really interesting ways. I'll give you one example. If you are a content creator, like on you, let's use the YouTube example or the photo example, like on Instagram. And I notice that Ben is making really good video content, long form video or short form video or images, doesn't matter. And I say, Ben, I'm looking at your data. I see how much engagement you're getting, how many views you're getting. Would you be interested in a loan to continue to pursue? Because I notice you also work at Starbucks as a barista. Would you be interested in potentially leaving your role as a part-time barista and focusing full-time on this video content or images that you're making? Because we've done the analysis, we've got the data, we can see that you're growing at 40% every 2 weeks, and by our calculations, you should be making this, and we're interested in giving you that money up front because we're very confident that past content, not future content, you could stop making content tomorrow. But we believe even your past profile, your past canonical catalog of content will continue to monetize at higher and higher rates week over week with your growing crowd. And so we're offering you a risk-free loan on our part because, by the way, we think you will make more content, but we can even bring more visibility to you and your content if you do accept this loan, by the way. So we know we'll get our money back. It's a risk-free loan to us. All you have to do is stop posting your shit on Instagram and on fucking YouTube. Are you interested?
If I may add, like on Instagram, they are paying already for reels. If you have a reel that has like a bunch of likes, they are paying my son now for his reels. I'm not sure if they are coming a little bit late for that. It's one thing to get a loan, it's another thing to get money that you don't have to pay back from the actual organization. You know what I mean? The initiative for young people that are starting up, I think, is really on Instagram's side right now because of that.
But Tyler, I will add something on this. I think that Twitter has the potential to do to the banks what Netflix done to Blockbuster.
Exactly right. Let that sink in. John Pierre gets it. Sorry,
So,
Jean-Francois.
so for that to happen, Tyler, not initially, but over time, like what partnerships would be key? Because you could see, the likes of GitHub, Google, Instagram, even owned by Meta, coming together and saying, hey, we make all this money off of this type of advertising, and we make money off this type of search, and we've got a huge bank. You know what? We're gonna have to throw some money in the kitty to keep Twitter out of these use cases. So what what's the funding mechanism? Yeah, it makes sense. But if I've got a million users over here, and I've got a bunch of developers, and to the earlier point, has the train left the station? Like how long are they able to fund this? Number one, versus the competitors, and then what are the key partnerships that they would have to embrace to make this vision a reality? Because it sounds great, and I would never bet against Elon, but like how it's definitely the long game. But the answers to those two questions, I'd be curious in your feedback.
Time will tell. Time will tell.
Yep.
But there's very, very many interesting things that happen when you create banking with content, which is in some sense Hollywood is based on that, and banking with e-commerce and social media all interbundled across nearly every form of media. It gets the opportunities are very, very interesting. Never mind that
Yep.
TikTok may be regulated,
Yep.
kneecapped in the near future, and there's a wildly profitable opportunity should that happen. My goodness, and Twitter's perhaps in the pole position to pursue that opportunity if that should happen. Anyway, the super app, it gets even more interesting because when you have that payment layer of everybody having this bank account where everyone's transacting with each other in the way that they do in Asia, what happens is app developers like Tinder or Uber want to do a deal with you and say, oh, we noticed you've got 200 million users, all with bank accounts, all buying stuff. Could we possibly partner in the way that Uber did with Google Maps? So when you're on Google Maps, you can take a train, you can ride a bike, you can walk, or you can call an Uber right there in Google Maps. Guess how much Uber making a shit ton of money from that partnership and splitting it with Google. Google's making a lot of money from that partnership. Imagine the number of partnerships you could have inside of Twitter now that everyone's got their wallet directly inside Twitter. Oh, we noticed you were talking with somebody and said, hey, can I meet you for lunch? Bada bing, bada boom. Uber's like, hey, we can take you there. Did you just tell Ben you want to meet him for coffee in 20 minutes? As one of a billion examples. So every company on the planet is going to pitch Twitter on, could we possibly interject into situations that might be relevant to users? If they're talking about our TV show, could we advertise for a Netflix subscription? If they're talking about our product, could we somehow allow them to buy it right inside of Twitter without ever leaving Twitter and giving you a cut? It goes on and on and on and on and on, and it's huge.
Well, and I think the point that you made is like that we've talked about with Nicholas on this for a long time, not tied to crypto, but just source identity, right? Just getting the veracity of your true identity, number one, and your ability to monetize it. A lot of people show up here on this call. Maybe we want to be visible, maybe we don't, maybe we want to make money. But I think if you, at the macro level, if you can flip the script and say, okay, for your engagement, if we quantify and qualify the contributions that you're making as a human being, and we can actually, and this is where I think the punchline with the whole $8 blue check is people don't really get what that is. That's a teaser to say, hey, if you subscribe to the service, you're actually going to be identified and you're going to be paid, whether you're a creator, a developer, a consumer, a business. And that's the piece that I see unfolding that I think is extremely innovative. And to my earlier point, yeah, some of these other companies could do it, but I just don't think they're thinking about actually flipping the script and paying you for your identity versus what we've seen large tech companies do historically is not honor your privacy, not honor your identity, and make as much as they can from their DMP, their data management platform. And I think that's the macro shift. That if it can be done, it's game changing.
Alrighty, next up on
Also,
Bloomberg.
Tyler,
Yes,
Tyler,
sir.
I was gonna add. Do you think that I also feel that that Elon wants to make Twitter the funniest place on the internet? I mean, he's bringing his whole like I mean it sounds petty, but you know being at the cool platform and being the fun and we know TikTok is really excelling at this. I don't want to go on TikTok because I know I'll get addicted to all the funny videos that people are sending me on other, they share them on WhatsApp, whatever, Instagram. I don't want to get addicted to that. I feel that Elon is also trying to make Twitter be the funniest place with all these meme jokes he keeps cracking, because it's also like, why would you want someone like John on if he doesn't feel that he's going to bring that character and personality to kind of push that on the innovation side? I mean, being a funny platform, I think, is valuable today because funny means time spent, right?
I think in a variation on that theme is a potential attempt to I'll give the example that the former Twitter founders are notably absent from the app. And when they do make comments, they're usually very safe. And as their personalities tend to be, they don't tend to um, be willing to say things that would get them in hot water. So, but that's part of their personalities anyway. But and Alon's is not, and Alon is okay with stirring the pot and saying, and that might spill over. And I think we have already seen subtle examples of this, where people feel more at liberty if the CEO is willing to potentially put his foot in his mouth, then it gives other users on the platform the sense that they don't have to overly curate every comment that they make and be overly concerned with crafting perfect tweets. They can let the shit fly and apologize if need be later. And I think that's the kind of environment that Elon would like to see happen more in Twitter, and that's why you're seeing him do the types of tweets that he's doing.
I'll tell you that last point actually surprised me, but I think humor is the best medicine, right? And I think the comment about making it funny without being abusive, that I'm going to date myself, but I remember The Onion, right? You throw two people that are fighting in a room, you throw a stack of The Onion, satire press, and everybody just starts laughing. And I think what's been missing, for sure for the last 3 years at least, is just good humor, fun, right? And so I think if the experience is fun, on top of all these use cases, it's continues to have a lot of vision. Thanks.
Well, yeah, to that point, and even on point, there is the Babylon Bee, which is kind of a variation, a newer take on an onion-like style of kind of mock headlines, right? Which, by the way, was one of Elon's very favorite Twitter accounts, which got banned for making jokes,
Which one was that?
not for making actual statements about anything, not for making declarations, but for literally making spoof headlines that are known to be, no one's thinking these are real. This is like Onion. They claim they're not pretending to be a news outlet. They're just making puns and jokes out of
Mm-hmm.
headlines, and they were at times hilariously funny. Like they were really one of the funniest. They were making fun of the left generally, and hence the ban. And that, I think, people have said that for Elon was the turning point that really made him think he needs to save Twitter
Hmm.
from itself.
Thanks
To
for
your
sharing,
point.
Tyler. Yeah. Well, and it started in Madison, Wisconsin. The first franchise I took out to Boulder, Colorado. So it's if they can restore that kind of levity and good humorness, we'd all be in a better place. Thanks for your insights.
Yeah. So
And
Bloomberg has.
um,
Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, Elon, in the past, for a long time, have been making fun of himself and things that are happening to him and the entire community. I remember when the short sale happened for Tesla and the the people who bet against Tesla stock, and then failed tremendously. There was a release of a red silk. Shorts that said sexy at the back, and those shorts were released just for the short sellers on the Tesla account, and people bought it. And there are communities on Twitter, off Twitter, that all the shareholders are part of, or the Tesla people are, where not only he's the meme king, he kind of pokes fun at everything that he does wrong, everything that other people are doing wrong or right, doesn't matter. So I would say, yes, the humor part is just very fun, although could be offensive sometime. And one more point I wanted to add, that the semi truck delivery event is coming up December 1st. Neuralink event is scheduled for December 30th. So a lot of shareholders have been given tickets and invitation to go there. A lot more discussion will happen about the future of Twitter there. As in the past, he mentioned many times, not only the monetary aspect of Twitter future, but the ride sharing, combining it with the robotaxi, combining that with the robot. and the data collection that is going to help training the AI. So just few more points where Twitter is useful for not only Elon but the future of AI training and connecting different aspects of FSD cars, robotaxis, and so much more.
Okay, so the next one is from Bloomberg. They say court documents show that FTX owes $3.1 billion to its 50 biggest unsecured creditors, with claims ranging from 21 million to 226 million, 10 claims over 100 million each. Washington Post, U.S. government officials worry over Twitter's potential demise, arguing the platform is one of the most effective emergency communication tools. And that's because the Washington Post is listening to a wildly creative yet woefully uninformed journalists who like to fantasize that Twitter's, like I said, is going to fall into a black hole of its own making. And that has U.S. governments now worrying, which they shouldn't, uh, and and because of the point that Twitter is valuable and is the most effective emergency communications tool, which of course it is, but it also has even many more additional use cases that are of great value to the federal government. And I'll let you use your creativity with regard to imagining why Twitter would be useful to the United States government. Okay, next up is from New York Times. Online sports betting companies are cutting big deals with U.S. colleges to promote gambling to students. Okay, that's I didn't know that myself. That's interesting. That sounds like journalism. I want to know who wrote that. New York Times is doing journalism again. I find that uh, interesting. I did notice that they did make a piece about macaroni and cheese, and they tested a whole bunch of macaroni and cheeses over the weekend and came to the conclusion that macaroni and cheese is delightful, and that's the New York Times. And interestingly, over the weekend, in fact, yesterday, Elon himself tweeted on Twitter saying all the news that's fit to print my ass, meaning, and that's the New York Times's kind of self stated, you know, reason for being. And so Elon saying all the news that's fit to print my ass is quite a direct point at the New York Times. And anyway, this one, I can't tell who wrote this one, which is unfortunate. Anyway, interesting article. Next, an interview with Brian Armstrong, who's the CEO of Coinbase, on crypto and economic freedom, Coinbase's no politics in the workplace policy, the crypto downturn, regulations, and more. So Financial Times has an interview with CEO of Coinbase, Brian, who I think I mean, I would be shocked if Coinbase goes through a similar fate as the FTX. I would bet everything that they won't. I think Brian's running the company in the way that he should. And hopefully they benefit from the FTX fallout and aren't continuously hindered as the whole space seems to be. Anyway, Meta rolls out its precision time protocol to its data centers, upgrading the network time protocol, aiming to sync its networks down to nanoseconds. Okay. The UK's Central Markets Authority plans investigation Broadcom's proposed $61 million VMware acquisition. Who cares? New York Times, a look at Gary Gensler's plans to regulate most crypto as securities and questions over SEC's handling of FTX, which met the regulator before its implosion. And a publication called Nieman Lab has a look at things journalism could lose if Twitter dies. real-time feedback on stories, news outlets being publicly called out, DMs as a reporting tool, and more. And there's a whole bunch of fundraisings as normal. And Unstable Diffusion is trying to monetize AI porn generators. The group migrated from a subreddit to Discord, where it has over 45,000 members on Discord. It started as a subreddit, and they're trying to monetize AI porn generators, like Stable Diffusion, which is an AI image generator. And so they call themselves Unstable Diffusion. It's quite a clever little geeky pun there. Microsoft brings SwiftKey back to iOS App Store. And a look at the growth of esports tournaments in India, which are attracting primetime TV audiences. New York Times has interviews with more than 24 people involved in the AT&T Time Warner merger, including people you've never heard of. FTX says it has fired its CTO Gary Wang, engineering director Nashid Singh, and Alameda Research CEO Caroline Ellison. Okay. Those are your big boring headlines for today. Did anyone have any tweets or
Okay,
other headlines they saw
John,
since we met last
back
time?
channel me one. I'm not sure whether he's on stage now to share, but it's an article from Wall Street Journal. I'm going to pin it on top now.
Okay. Okay.
John,
Okay. Take it away, John.
John, are you there? Okay, maybe he's not. I pinned it. You can read. I think it'll be of your
Ground
interest as well.
control.
It's regarding the
Made. Yeah.
digital yuan versus digital US dollar.
Okay. So, Evan, our friend Evan found one. The U.S. needs a better digital dollar. There's a mixed
That's the one.
emotion headline if ever I saw one. Yeah. So, Evan just found two AIs talking to each other, video AIs, which I just pinned to the top of the room. And so now you can see how our assistants might someday book our meetings for each other. You could potentially eventually train your AI assistant to so accurately understand your position on all things related to your business, and so could the other party, that the your two AIs could meet and come to kind of consensus or agreements or disagreements about how both parties feel, removing you from the obligation or need to have meetings with other humans. You could delegate that to your AI, who might be able to negotiate better than you can yourself. So thank you for that one, Evan. Other tweets since we met last time? I know BB's got a bunch. There's a bunch of DMs here.
They are modernizing the battlefield by delivering, for example, medicines and blood deliveries by drones to on the field where soldiers are dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that was discussed that Chinese rockets are targeting Elon Musk Starlink satellites, and this happened again like 2 days ago, which is kind of probably more than annoying right now for Starlink. I don't know if you guys discussed that before. I have a bunch of more, but that's it.
Okay. Yeah, the blood by drones was actually one of the first use cases of drones in Africa, which Mabwana will probably remember the name of the company. Was sending blood and other medicines to remote places. But the idea of adding it to the battlefield makes all the sense in the world. Drones are being used in a myriad of use cases on battlefields. And
Zipline.
Zipline, thank you, Messi. And that was the African drone delivery, blood and vaccines and everything. But yeah, it makes perfect sense that it would happen on the battlefield. Somebody just sent a real interesting one from Forbes that Joe Biden leads a critical call for game-changing global Bitcoin and crypto rules after shock FTX collapse. calls for stricter regulatory controls have grown to a cacophony over the last week. Now, following the latest gathering of the Group of 20, the G20, the biggest countries in the world, the 20 biggest countries in the world, in Indonesia, the leaders of the countries called the need for international rules to govern the fast-growing Bitcoin and crypto space critical, and said potential risk for financial stability needed to be mitigated. Here's a quote. It is critical to build public awareness of risks, to strengthen regulatory outcomes, and to support a level playing field while harnessing the benefits of innovation. We welcome the FSB's proposed approach. Oh, this is the Financial Stability Board, not the Russian intelligence agency. We welcome the FSB's proposed approach for establishing a comprehensive international framework for the regulation of crypto asset activities. Yeah, this needs to be a global thing, although here comes the bear hug on a global level. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said in the fall of FTX demonstrates the need for more effective oversight. Yeah, no doubt. Okay. Thank you for that. BB has one from South China Morning Post that Apple extends wait time in China for popular iPhone 14 models beyond Christmas as Foxconn scrambles to resume full production due to the fact that their contractors were seen running down the highway to escape lockdown at the factory. So your iPhone's going to be late for Christmas. So thank you for that, BB. And the other one from BB, there's a few here. South China Morning Post. Companies can now trade data like oil and metals in a Shenzhen exchange. China is trying to apply commercial rules to create a market for data, which is regulated by Beijing as a new production factor. And I had this conversation 48 hours ago. And it's quite a good example that I happened to stumble upon. This market of data scenario sounds kind of philosophic, but I assure you it's not. I'll give you a very concrete example. I was in Helsinki at a very big startup conference festival, and there was, as you might imagine, pods that people could work in because this is a very noisy party-like environment, and these pods are soundproof, and you can sit in there and get work done and do phone calls and whatever else. And the maker of these pods was talking about how they optimize the air quality and that bad air makes you less productive and good air makes you more productive. And that was their whole unique angle. And I've seen similar pods in Tokyo train stations, in hotel lobbies in Ho Chi Minh City, in shopping malls in Ho Chi Minh City and in Helsinki, and just in the past recent history. And I believe that these pods will be tremendously popular. And it only occurred to me over the weekend how tremendously popular I think these will be. Because here for the following reason. That WeWork essentially built a rather impressive following of people who were paying money to go to an office ostensibly to be productive. That's why you're paying WeWork to go to those WeWork locations, because those locations are theoretically optimized for productivity as opposed to your, spare room in your house. So you go to WeWork because the environment's optimized for productivity. Now, inside of WeWorks, they have these soundproof booths. I was given a complimentary WeWork membership. And when I did go to WeWorks, I learned over time that I was by far at my most productive when I was in those soundproof booths. Now, why trouble me with driving to a WeWork to get into the soundproof booth when there could be soundproof booths all over the goddamn place? Starbucks could start having soundproof booths. Every shopping mall, everywhere could start having soundproof booths. Everywhere. Every train station, bus station, street corners, everywhere. Any of these things could be like vending machines. They could be everywhere, as they're starting to be in Asia. And they could be not only could they be everywhere, they could be subsidized by the coffee makers who sell you coffee in the booth if you should just happen to want a coffee while you're in the booth. By the way, that's what's happening in Tokyo at the moment. Is these are partnerships with coffee brands who provide coffee in the booth while you're in the booth. So it gets more interesting because I was in Helsinki, mind you, in Finland, and standing next to us was the Ura ring, which is a wildly popular sleep tracking ring started by some very fantastic Finnish dude, so I'm very fond of. And the Ura ring tracks your, alertness, for a lack of a better word. And I said to the pod manufacturer, who's also from Helsinki, Finland, hey, have you considered doing a partnership with Ura? Because if I use the Oura ring, and the Oura ring has a unique data set about me and my alertness based on my sleeping patterns, maybe the room could be, the pod could tailor itself, the lighting in the pod could be adjusted to match my sleeping level and the time of day, and based on my sleeping patterns, and optimized to me based on my alertness level, based on my Aura data, for example. And the pod maker salesman guy was confused about this proposition. And I said, well, what about there must be other companies who have data sets that would be useful to you to optimize your room if you're so concerned with making your pod be totally optimized to the user. You could tap into all kinds of partnerships. And by the way, Spotify wants to know when you're in a pod so they can optimize your playlist, to the pod. Twitter might even want to know that you're in a pod, and they might even adjust their algorithm to show you things that might be more applicable to content in a pod, and on and on and on and on and on. And there you start to see the beginnings of a data exchange where different companies could have access to other companies' data either for free or for a fee or what have you. And Uber would have tons of data about people. Airbnb has lots of interesting data about people. All kinds of apps have all kinds of interesting data about people. TikTok, most of all, has more data than anybody at this point about people. And other businesses should be able to pay for utilizing that data in their products and services. So that's the data exchange point that back to the headline, China's trying to, not trying, they are. The headline is companies can now trade data like oil and metals, that means commodities, in a Shenzhen market exchange. And they're trying to apply commercial rules to create a market for data, which is regarded by Beijing as a new production factor. It is. For example, at once upon a time, nobody saw much value in many of the things that we find lots of value in that are traded as commodities. And now people are starting to see the value in data, as they should. It's incredibly valuable, and it can be totally valuable to companies of all kinds for all kinds of uses and use cases. And that should be of much concern to everybody, because much of the tremendous gargantuan wealth that has been created in the past 15 years has been because one side of this exchange, aka Google and Apple, understood the value of data when the users did not. And when your data starts to be traded all around the world to every company you can possibly think of and more that you can't, now you really start to understand the value of your data. And that's the next 10 years, and the regulators are just starting to figure this out, and it's still early chapters of figuring out how we're going to deal with all this. And that point leads perfectly to Nicholas's Verus IO, which is that you should not only control your own identity, but that's the starting point of that, is so that you can control all your own data, and that you are the dictator of how your data gets used and shared, and with all of these exchanges and everything else. And so he's kind of 2 steps ahead, and he understands this headline and where it's going, and that's a big part of the reason why he feels the need to do what he's doing. But it takes a lot of time to explain that to folks. So now you know. Anyway, next article is from BB from Reuters. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway warns about crypto website using its name, meaning Berkshire Hathaway. which they are not at all fond of crypto at all. In fact, they're some of the most vocal critics of crypto. And so yeah, I can imagine they would be very quick to want to uh, disconnect themselves from any mention of their names being used in any kind of crypto context at all.
Tyler, can I make a comment to the thing before? If I would have the energy maybe to start a new company, I would probably create data reliability quality check company service maybe for people, because I think that's the next thing. Like, you have a lot of data, you have a lot of variety of quality from people but also from companies, so screening for data quality as a service, I think, is a future profitable endeavor.
Okay, where Ben, you just sent in one. If it flies, floats, or trucks, rent it by the hour. I think this is a point on,
Indeed, a room on sustainable transport solutions, of course.
yeah. Well, by the way, that it fits nicely with the rant I was just on about pods and working. So even your workspace will not be even monthly anymore. It'll be hourly, or if not minutely, as no doubt it will be in Japan, where hotels are hourly, by the way. So yeah, your productivity time will be very thoroughly optimized and subsidized by at least coffee companies for the short term, and potentially many other data sources henceforth. And they might be used as delivery points, by the way, and meeting points. Oh, by the way, it does bring up the interesting point that many of these pods, by the way, are meant for 2 and 4 people and have a TV screen in them that you can plug into or connect to. And that's the reason I think these things will inevitably be ubiquitously everywhere, is because they will be on an app like an Uber app, where you'll have a bird's eye view of satellite view of the ground, and you'll be able to see all of the locations of these pods and their schedules, and you'll be able to book a meeting place most conveniently between you and the person you want to physically meet, when these things are everywhere all the time. So it could it could shorten everybody's commutes. Um, BB has a no. Oh, that was the Buffett one. Hyundai wants to help you put solar and batteries on your home. They want to be a one-stop shop for energy. That's nice. And forget the ocean or even planet Earth. The EU wants to build a data center in space. Oh, wow. Didn't some tech bro just come in here about 3 days ago telling us about data centers in space? About rebuilding the internet in space? And the implications that will have for geopolitics, especially if it's done by a private company. Gee, I wonder what company that tech bro was referring to. I'll let you wonder about which company already has a satellite connectivity network in space and may or may not be planning to start hosting servers in space, which again will have incredibly interesting geopolitical implications, especially if a social network is bundled into those data centers in space. Anyway, especially when that social network has all kinds of geopolitical frictions. I'll let you figure that one out. Anyway, so the next is Apple's Phil Schiller deactivates Twitter account. Responsible for Apple events and the App Store has deactivated his Twitter account. Does anyone know why? Before I open the article, yeah, his Twitter account now is nothing but a black circle that says this account doesn't exist. And he often used his account to promote new Apple product services, software, and initiatives, and interact with customers. It had over 200,000 followers, created in 2008. Yesterday, Twitter CEO Elon Musk announced that former President Trump's account would be reinstated on the platform. In a recent interview, Apple CEO Tim Cook commented about the future of Twitter and the social media platform's relationship with Apple. During the interview, Cook said he remained hopeful Twitter would uphold its moderation standard under the new leadership. So we're left sort of theorizing that Phil deactivated his account as a response to Trump rejoining, but of course it could be for a myriad of other reasons. Because, as we read an article an hour ago, Twitter moving to subscription business model does put it directly in the uh, league of other subscription companies, most namely Spotify, who take great issue with Apple taking a 30% cut of things. So anyway, I'm sure we'll find out eventually. I'm sure Phil will eventually reveal why he decided to shut off his account. And Katerina found one that another Chinese rocket mishap threatens Elon Musk Starlink satellites, as she hinted at a moment ago. China's rockets continue to create a mess in space. And there was a related article, I think Cheryl found it as well. I imagine multiple people did on stage, about a Chinese anti-satellite system, which could potentially be a direct kind of counter to Starlink. And they said they would only make it accessible to its strongest allies or whatnot, meaning no one in the West will get their hands on it. But it seems both Russia and China now are a little concerned about this Starlink thing. And I think they might even be more concerned about it when it starts having web servers and a social media network with crypto payments. Just maybe, possibly, in countries where they don't allow it and where they control the VPNs. Interesting. Anyway, next up, Katerina found one bloody delivery by drone. The one, again, she mentioned the Army wants to modernize battlefield medicine with drone delivery, blood delivery via drone. Yeah, they absolutely should. And what else do we have? Researchers show how a common fungus eliminates toxic mercury from soil and water. Nature's amazing like that. EU secures deal on satellite internet system. Oh, thank you, Valerie. What a coincidence. We were just talking about those. We were talking about how basically one dude, private company, pretty much has a global monopoly on that technology, and why governments are going to be very concerned about it, way more concerned than they currently are in the not so distant future when they realize what's really going to happen with Starlink. And so the EU makes a deal on a satellite internet system for space. Diminished reliance on non-US vendors. This is called not only sovereign cloud, this is called sovereign low Earth orbit. Sovereign, what do we call it, Ben? Stratosphere, the sovereign stratosphere. You heard it here first. We're going from sovereign clouds to sovereign stratospheres of low Earth orbit satellite
Or
internet.
just sovereign space, Tyler. Then you don't need pedants telling you it's outside the stratosphere and it's shorter to say.
Yeah, there you go, sovereign space. I like it. Let me register the domain right now. Sovereign.
Well, Chinese are not the only, a country who is. Americans also conducted the DART mission that kind of changed the trajectory of an asteroid. So that mission was conducted successfully. So satellite, safety in space is a concern. Another that is going to launch these computer type small satellites in the middle Earth orbit instead of the lower Earth orbit, which is kind of farther away where no one have satellites yet. And that project is underway as well. are developing, not only these Space Force, America. I I read the news about allowing Blue Origin to join the Air Force this time. Um, Blue Origin lost the competition to SpaceX and UL, but within few years, Blue Origin is going to be joining the force as well. They're developing their 37 BS rockets. That's going to be helpful in that way. And this Space Force that is being devised, preparing for this kind of future, which is kind of bleak and dark. In my opinion, we were not able to solve our issues on Earth, and now we are, taking the same conflicts up in space, trying to prepare for those conflicts instead of working together. That's kind of sad. But yeah, just wanted to mention the Chinese are not the only one having this kind of planetary system, not planetary, sorry, space defense system. U.S. also have the DART and others.
You know what's a funny question about the space stuff? I've never heard a single person ask why are so many Navy SEALs becoming astronauts.
Well, they are trained already. Like this, there are no new twins. They are both Navy SEALs, going to conduct this twin study as it was done before. And one of them is going to be like already is an astronaut. He's going to spend 500 days in space. All the training that is required for being an astronaut, Navy SEALs trainings are literally very close to it. And Jeanette Epps, who was, I got a chance to speak with, she was mentioning how harsh conditions on Earth kind of
I'll be
prepare them.
I'll be back in 10 seconds. Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, so she was mentioning how, they have to do this scuba diving training, for example, for this many hours, or they have to spend time in wilderness. With training that they receive. So I believe that could be one of the reasons because they're already so close to the training, similar to the astronauts training.
Tom, you actually bring up a very, I love the things that you observe. I'm not certain many notice what you're bringing up. If you want to elaborate a little bit more, that would be good. If not, maybe you and I someday could have drinks over it offline.
We can have drinks offline. It's basically because a lot of things I go into, I don't like to talk about on Clubhouse.
Got it. We'll do it offline because it requires too much background. Thanks.
Cheryl, are you there?
Yep, Tyler, you're not back, right? I've just pinned
No,
an
Tyler
article.
stepped away.
Yeah, I just pinned an article on top shared by Robert about Indonesia's earthquake that kills about 162 so far and injures hundreds. Robert, have you read this article?
Yeah, it's just the top line for everyone a couple hours ago. This is from DW News. Those DW News. For me, I think it's a great source. It's
Yes.
German-based newspaper.
It
Uh,
is.
I pinned the one from BBC.
yeah. So there was a earthquake, maybe about 5.5, that hit more western Java. For those of you in Indonesia, it's made up of thousands of islands, but the major island is Java. So it's well west of Jakarta. Um, normally for us, I would say a 5 is a tough earthquake, but in some of these other places that don't have some of the structures that we have to prepare us for some of these type of quakes, it's pretty devastating. And this is pretty sad because if you open the article, you'll see, I think they said well over 150 people just right now after, it just happened 2 hours ago. So they're still finding out what's going on. So, you know, sending prayers and good hopes to Indonesia. Um, many of you, I don't know if you know, I mean, I don't think we talk enough about certain parts of Southeast Asia. but it is a rolling market not only for tech but for a lot of trade to come. And it's particular Indonesia. A lot of Americans have, I'll speak for Americans, they have no idea that Indonesia, what population wise, is probably the fifth largest in the world. It's the largest Muslim country in the world, which most people have no idea also. So anyway, just FYI, take care.
Hey, Robert, it, were you recent?
Yes,
Were you recently at Icon Siam in Bangkok?
yes.
W- was that the most impressive shopping mall you've ever seen in your life?
You know what's so funny is I usually stay at the Millennium over there, and I'm not a shopper, but because I had folks with me, which you met, um, I finally went over there, loved it. From the entrepreneurial base, what I love about Icon Siam is though it is viewed as a luxury mall, they have different levels of. I mean, when you go to the first level, they have what we call hawker stations. If you guys aren't familiar with it, it's where, let's just say, your family has a secret recipe of a soup or something that you want to make, and everybody has their own little space that they sell their product on, and it's like walking into a very lively market. But when you go up above, you really see the luxury and just the design. And I don't know, are the Tyler, that fountain, that ceiling fountain, we've never saw anything like that before,
Well,
and
there's one
it's
in
just beautiful.
the Singapore airport is similar, but the
Jewel. Yeah.
yeah, the you're right though that it's I think the most impressive. The Thais have taken shopping malls to another level,
Is it the
and
one that you have to take a boat across, a ferry across?
yeah,
You
you
could
can.
take a ferry across.
I've
There's a
been
lot you
there.
could do there.
I've
Yeah.
been there before the launch, and I was actually there with the owner because
Mm,
they invited us over to do an event with them.
mm,
It's the most, what I think they said it was, what, 1.5 billion or so to build. It's most expensive one built in Bangkok. And keep in mind, Bangkok does not have, and Bangkok actually has really nice malls,
yeah,
but this one is really good.
yeah,
And I'll give you an example. Their restrooms are not only spotless, but so modern it would make you think that you're not in a mall at all, maybe like a high-end restaurant or something like that. It would
yeah,
just blow you away that that literally would be a
yeah,
mall, period.
Can
yeah,
you elaborate on the toilet thing? I'm interested now.
yeah.
The other thing is, my wife and aunt were with me, and I usually never travel with anybody, but literally, I got my first pedicure and manicure,
I
and
was just about to say
they
you
usually
could
get
get a
them, and they
massage
loved
there.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
made me soft.
yeah. You could live inside. You could live inside that mall and never leave it. Is the part of the. It's got gyms and everything. So anyway, um, it's really futuristic though. It really is kind of the new watermark for the future of kind of
If you go on Twitter, I posted something relating to that ceiling fountain. Just to describe it for you real quick, is I don't know about you, but I have never seen a fountain where you see images. They had snowflakes,
right.
birds, spelled the name of of the mall, and it's all timed as the water tumbles down. It just it's just mesmerizing and it's hypnotizing. And if you have a few beers there, you'll be watching it like you're buzzed. But anyway, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the Middle East, being in Doha, and I've been to the big mall at the Burj Khalifa, which is impressive, but it's Icon Siam's on a whole other level, honestly. Anyway, so the next article is
Isn't
kind of
Burj Khalifa in Dubai, not
yes,
Doha? Oh,
yes, yeah, I said that though. Um, yeah, they're exactly. I didn't mean to imply that Burj Dubai is in Doha. It's down the road in Dubai. So
Hey Tyler, before you change, real quick, since we were talking about Thailand, hey, your place is awesome. The location beach is great. I was there during the full moon, or right after the full moon festival. enjoyed sitting on the beach at 4 a.m. and watching. Most people watch sunsets, but I don't know if we call it a moonset,
Yeah,
but
be a
that
moon.
was really touching. Yeah.
Yeah, most people never get to see a moonset, but you can watch a moonset on our beach. It's really wild.
So it's really cool.
Yeah. So the next article is kind of related, and I think very important, and most people will not give it the attention it deserves. It's from Jeff Bezos. The headline says Jeff Bezos says people should stop buying big ticket items right now. That's the headline. And it's because he believes a very big depression is coming, and he's not at all alone. I'll give you an example. Um, both Jeff and Elon sold lots of their company's shares just before the stock market took a huge turd, starting last, I don't know, November, late November. No, what? February, sorry. And so they both knew this massive market change or correction was coming and sold their company shares, and which they never hoped they would ever have to do, but they did because they're not stupid. They're informed. And Jeff and Elon, being the world's richest individuals, have access to the smartest folks with regard to where the economy is going. And Jeff is now feels the need. He rarely does interviews. He doesn't like to get into the press unless he needs to, but he feels it's necessary to warn everybody to stop buying expensive things now, because that's how big he thinks this depression is going to be. Kind
And
of sobering
he
to think about.
and he owns Amazon, right?
And he owns the place where you should be buying lots of things, and he's telling you not to buy things.
Exactly.
He says small businesses should avoid spending large amounts of capital or making sizable acquisitions at this point, etc. Anyway, take some risk off the table, Bezos told CNN. Just a little bit of risk reduction could make the difference. There you go. So, on that cheerful note, is Ben going to do a room today?
Yes, he is. I'm gonna pin it now.
Yeah, I think I'll do it on the
On
hour though,
the
because I haven't quite prepped it yet. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. See
Nice
you
to
next
have
time.
you back, Tyler. We all miss you a lot.
Okay.